Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going on a deeply personal, almost meditative journey into what exactly happens to your brain when you lie back, quiet down, and truly look at the stars. To really get a sense of this, I want you to imagine finding a perfectly dark place tonight, somewhere far, far away from city lights. You lie on your back, and you just look up. For those first few seconds, it's simply beautiful, right? The stars, the profound silence, that overwhelming relief of open space above you. It feels incredibly peaceful. But I want you to keep looking. Stay with it well past that first minute. Let your eyes adjust and let your mind completely settle. Because if you look up at a truly dark night sky for more than a minute, something inside you actually begins to shift. That initial simple beauty, it gives way to this faint sense of vertigo. You might even feel a strange upward pull, almost as if gravity has reversed, and suddenly you're hit with a feeling of unimaginable smallness. All those ordinary heavy concerns that filled your mind just a moment ago, the unread messages, a stressful project at work, your daily anxieties, they become, for a very brief moment, impossible to locate. They aren't magically solved, of course, but they just become very, very small. Now, what you're experiencing in that quiet, empty moment isn't just your imagination running wild. It's actually a well-documented cognitive event, one that's been studied heavily by both neuroscientists and existential philosophers. It is a genuine, profound shift in how your brain is functioning, right then and there. To understand why this happens, we need to look at part one, the scale problem, and why your brain literally cannot process what it is seeing. You see, out there in the dark, your brain is attempting to do something it simply wasn't built for. We have to talk about the immense scale of the cosmos, and frankly, the absolute limits of your own mind. Based on three-dimensional models by researcher Christopher Kuncelis at the University of Nottingham, the observable universe contains an estimated 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. That's a figure they actually had to revise upward by a factor of 10 back in 2016. And each one of those 2 trillion galaxies contains hundreds of billions of stars. The sheer, literal weight of that reality is physically impossible to hold in your head. And the distances you're staring into are just as staggering. Take the nearest star to us outside our own solar system, Proxima Centauri. It's 4.24 light years away. To put that into perspective, it would take humanity approximately 7,000 years to reach it, traveling at our absolute fastest current speeds of 163 kilometers per second. Because of these massive distances, the faint light hitting your eyes right now actually left those stars hundreds or even thousands of years ago. You aren't just looking at space, you're literally looking back in time. But here's where the friction happens. Research in numerical cognition shows us that your brain's intuitive understanding of quantity effectively breaks down right around the number 1,000. Numbers larger than that, your brain just processes them as abstract symbols, not as actual felt quantities. So neurologically speaking, a billion feels the exact same as a trillion. They're just words. So when you look up, the true scale of the universe is genuinely beyond your perceptual capacity. That vertigo you feel lying in the grass, that is just your mind hitting the boundary of its own architecture. Which brings us to part two, the science of awe and the specific emotion that rewires you. When your brain encounters something that's just too vast for its normal everyday frameworks, it triggers a very specific, highly transformative emotion. Researcher Dacher Keltner at UC Berkeley perfectly defines this feeling as awe. It happens when you perceive something so overwhelmingly vast that your current mental models simply cannot contain it. True awe requires two things: perceived vastness, and a desperate fundamental need for your brain to accommodate that vastness. And the night sky is one of the oldest, most reliable triggers of this state we have. And this awe, it produces measurable, lingering benefits in your psychology. A 2015 study published in Psychological Science shows that experiencing awe noticeably reduces self-focused thinking, increases our sense of connection to others, and lowers baseline anxiety. But perhaps most fascinatingly, it expands your perception of time. It literally compresses the urgency of your everyday crises, it slows down those racing thoughts, and it makes you feel like you actually have more time available to just simply be present. That connects perfectly to part three, the grounded overview effect, or what astronauts feel. This emotional rewiring isn't just limited to looking up from the grass. It's the exact same phenomenon reported by people who leave the planet entirely. Coined by Frank White in 1987, the overview effect is that sudden, visceral understanding astronauts get when they look down and see Earth from orbit. It's this overwhelming realization of life's fragility, a profound awareness that all human boundaries are completely invisible, and a sudden recognition that everything is fundamentally connected. That rigid sense of us versus them just dissolves in the vacuum of space. But here's why this matters so deeply for you. Extended, direct contemplation of the night sky allows you to access this exact same temporary dissolution of self-referential concerns without ever having to leave Earth. You can trigger the core psychological benefits of deep space travel, that profound sense of unity and quiet peace, literally right from your own backyard. Let's look a little deeper at part 4, the dissolving self, and what your brain does with vastness. We can actually see what this dissolution looks like inside your head, thanks to modern brain imaging. Andrew Newberg's neuroimaging research at Thomas Jefferson University reveals that awe measurably quiets your default mode network. Now, this is the part of your brain responsible for your relentless internal monologue, your rigid sense of I, and your daily looping worries. When you're confronted with cosmic vastness, the background noise of your own self-concern just dims down. You literally, neurologically, feel connected to something larger than yourself, because your ego boundaries temporarily become much less fixed. Which brings us beautifully to part 5, the pale blue dot effect, and when everything becomes perspective. When that internal chatter finally does quiet down, the context of all your human concerns radically shifts. Reflecting on that famous photograph of Earth taken by Voyager 1 from 6 billion kilometers away, Carl Sagan noted how cosmic scale renders all our posturings totally invisible. Earth was less than a single pixel in that image. He stated it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another, because that tiny dot is literally all we have. Existential psychologist Irvin Yalom called these moments awakening experiences. They are moments triggered by vastness, where you suddenly beautifully realize what actually matters in your life. That argument you had earlier, the status you're chasing, the anxiety over a looming deadline, when you view them against the quiet, massive indifference of the night sky, they just vanish. But this leads us to a crossroads in part 6, the paradox of smallness. Is it terror or is it liberation? Because honestly, realizing you're a tiny speck in the universe doesn't evoke the exact same reaction in everyone. It creates a psychological fork in the road. According to terror management theory, developed by Greenberg, Solomon, and Chisinski, this intense reminder of your cosmic smallness can do one of two things. If your meaning comes primarily from your status and certainty, the infinite sky actually threatens your identity, causing defensive anxiety or terror. But if you are open to finding meaning in connection and raw experience, this very same smallness will completely release you from the heavy burden of status, bringing profound liberation. The stimulus is the exact same. The reaction, however, depends entirely on you. And that brings us to our final takeaway in part 7, the oldest therapy, returning to the sky. The liberation found on the other side of smallness has always been available to you. Long before modern therapy, before we had functional neuroimaging or the writings of existential philosophy, early humans looked at the exact same stars to find perspective. It is the absolute oldest reminder we have that we are part of something unimaginably vast, and that this vastness is exactly where we came from. The sky has always known how to comfort us simply by showing us our true size. So, the only question left for you is whether you'll take a quiet moment for yourself, to step into the dark, to look up past that first 60 seconds, and let the quiet, beautiful scale of the universe do its work on you.